Oh, good morning. It's just me, Dan. Uh, it's a Monday morning, Easter Monday. I have got the most bizarre cold. Yeah, it started as a slight discomfort in my throat on Friday evening, and then by Saturday morning it was an actual sore throat, and by Saturday afternoon it was migraines, and by Saturday night, it was full blown sinus congestion and coughing up huge amounts of phlegm. Um, yeah. Anywho, we have an evangelical named Luca that wants to make up bullshit stories about atheism. But let's take a look at it.
Of atheism. We got the NASA shirt right there. But most atheists would say that they're not convinced of religion and that no, I don't believe in Sky Daddy and we have science now and humanity has moved on. I'm not convinced of religion anymore. It's an old teaching. But I would actually say that I'm not convinced of atheism.
Hello, Luca. It's me, Dan, and yeah. Got a bit of a phlegm thing happening, I noticed. Sounds a little uncomfortable. Have you tried a ginger tea, maybe? See if that helps. Yeah. Lemon and ginger. And some garlic. Yeah. Anyways, you're not convinced of atheism. Atheism is not a claim. There's nothing to be convinced of. Atheism is something that you either arrive at or you don't arrive at. And I arrived at it about 25 years ago, after spending probably a similar amount of time attempting to justify my faith as a Christian. Or at the very least, as a believer in the existence of the gods. Because yes, I went through a long period of questioning, studying, trying to understand, and trying to justify and rationalize. Neighbors. Car alarms. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, we hear you. Yeah. Trying to justify my faith as a Christian and subsequently my continuing faith as a believer that there had to be some kind of a God. It took me a long time to arrive at atheism. And when I arrived here, yeah. Let's just say I understand things a little better now.
Atheism. So first I'm gonna tell more practical reasons that may not be as forcing, and then in the end of the video I'll give you kind of the argument that I would use if I were debating this. But I'm not a debater, I'm not a philosopher, I'm just documenting my self-improvement and philosophy journey on this channel. So the first thing is that most atheists live inconsistently to their worldview.
Yeah, okay, you're not a philosopher, you're not a debater. Maybe a mass debater. Yeah, well. Yeah, so how am I inconsistent with my worldview? My worldview is the Earth is round. The Earth is round. The Earth orbits around the sun. It is the third planet in the solar system, that has 8, debatably 9 planets. Yeah, and numerous planetesimals and planetoids, and an Oort cloud. The Earth is a rocky world that is covered, 70% of its surface is covered with water, and the other 30% is covered with humans. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's my worldview. That's my worldview. How am I living inconsistently with my worldview? That's my question.
Ever have any sort of philosophical training, but most atheists assume things like meaning, assume things like morals, but these things don't exist on atheism.
I don't assume meaning. I don't assume morals. And yes, these things can indeed exist within the context of atheism, because there is nothing about atheism that precludes meaning or morals. Funny about that.
But you have to assume these things to have a worldview at all, to live your life, to live your everyday life at all.
Okay, you seem to be confusing different things with each other. A worldview, that is a view of the world, and living life. These are two separate things. Living life is getting up in the morning, going to work, working at your job, coming home, having supper, asking your girlfriend if she'd like to meet at the cafe later and hear some live music, going home with your girlfriend, cuddling for the night, getting up in the morning, going to work. Yeah, and on your day off, going out to the boat and fixing the boat. This is living life, and it has nothing to do with the shape of the earth. Again, the earth is round, not flat. That is my worldview. I am an atheist. My worldview has nothing to do with atheism. It has to do with the fact that we have demonstrated that the earth is, in fact, round. Okay?
Atheists are inconsistent, and most atheists have absolutely no idea what their worldview entails for them.
Yeah, so again, how am I inconsistent? And I have a pretty firm grasp on what my worldview entails for me. It entails that I live on a spherical planet. That's what my worldview entails for me. A world where you cannot push things off the edge, where there is no edge, where no matter how far you walk in any one direction, you will always come back to where you started. That's what my worldview entails.
And yeah, that's basically the first reason. The second reason, this is probably the number one thing. If there's an atheist, I ask them about morals, and most people have never even thought of this thing, which is kind of.
Okay, you almost kind of sort of have a point. Most people don't really think much about morality, particularly in religious context. Religious people just assume morality consists of whatever their God has commanded. If their God commands them to be kind and gentle, morality is being kind and gentle. If their God commands them to go out and kill, then morality is going out and killing. And that's divine command morality, which exists within monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Divine command morality. Once you start to question this, you start to question the foundation of real morality, and then you start to figure out what morality actually is. And you start to understand that morality is not blind obedience to an authority figure who right now today is telling you to be kind and gentle, but who tomorrow might command you to go out and kill people. Yeah. Morality consists of actually understanding what is good for oneself and one's community. How big is one's community? If you have a very small community that's just you, your morality is probably pretty fucked up because it's only about you. I have a big community. My community consists of every human, every chimp, every gorilla, every bonobo, every orangutan, every gibbon in all 8 or 9 species, I think it is. To say nothing of every breed of wolf, including every strain of domestic dog, plus every type of cat, horses, cows, sheep, pigeons, crocodiles of every variety. Yeah. That's my community. So my morality is all of a sudden a lot bigger and more complex than your simple religious morality of big guy in charge, command me, therefore I do. Because yes, part of arriving at atheism is questioning morality.
But the atheists who have really got into this will be able to say like, yeah, morals don't exist, but
Which is a conclusion that no atheist has ever arrived at. Funny how that works. Very funny indeed.
moral relativism. On atheism, there are no morals.
Again, community. Do atheists live in communities? If the answer is yes, then there have to be morals. There have to be moral standards, moral and ethical principles. Yeah, I don't live in complete isolation. I live with other people. Some of those people have 2 legs. Some of those people have 4 legs. Some of those people have wings. Some of those people have fins. And I live with all of them. I share a world with a vast plethora of individuals, all of whom I have to get along with.
It just is. If you're born on this planet, and this planet that smashed into whatever life came out, there is no good or bad.
And there you go, conflating the universe with the living entities that live within it. The universe has no good or bad. Living entities have good and bad. Because living entities are concerned about things like survival, well-being, my personal future, your personal future, the future of the species. These are all very important things for living things. Therefore, there is a good and bad, just not on the cosmic scale. But on the individual organic scale, the biological scale, yes, there is good and bad. It's a matter of scale.
There just is this physical matter that moves. There is no right or wrong. And but most atheists would like to make some moral claims.
See my previous response.
Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you must support women's rights. Oh, you shouldn't marry a child. Oh, you shouldn't be murdering people. Why?
If you can't figure out why, then please, for the good of everybody, stay away from children and stay away from humans. Because obviously, you are a monster.
Yeah. As a religious person, I do agree you shouldn't do those things. But why? On atheism, why shouldn't you do that?
Except you don't have an idea why not to do those things, except divine command, which I mentioned earlier. The big boss says do X, you do X or else. That's not morality. That's fear. That's groveling in fear before a cosmic tyrant who today might tell you again to be a good person and tomorrow might tell you to be a monster. And you have to obey them. Yeah. Why not marry children? Well, because it causes them fucking harm. Why not murder people? Because it causes them fucking harm. Why respect women's rights? Because women are fucking human beings. Simple, basic stuff. And incidentally, all stuff that your religion failed to figure out. Your religion didn't figure out women's rights. That required secular society, atheists. Your religion didn't figure out don't murder people. That required secular society, atheists. Your religion didn't figure out don't marry children. That, again, required secular society, atheists. Why? Because your religion, Christianity, does not actually address these issues. All it says is, obey me or else. That is the sum total of your morality. And when that is the sum total of your morality, you don't have morality.
If you want to do that, why not?
Again, harm. Harm. Such a simple concept, and yet the hyper-religious cannot wrap their heads around it, because for the hyper-religious, harm doesn't matter. For you, the idea of harm is irrelevant. What matters to you is blind obedience. Which means that if your God says, go out and kill people, you go out and kill people. If your God says, marry children, you marry children. And if your God says, oppress women, you oppress women. Funny how that works.
And I mean, if you say like, well, other people don't like, well, society doesn't work, well, why should I respect these things?
I made a video in which I addressed this issue quite some time ago. It's called the lion chow issue. Humans have to sleep. And out on the African savannah, there are hungry lions. Now, if you've got all the humans in a cluster together and they've got a fire, they're safe from the lions. But if you're one man alone on the savannah, you're lion chow. You are lion chow. Now, if you're causing harm to others in your group, you're going to be kicked out. And you're going to be made into one man alone on the savannah. This means you're going to be lion chow. And if you're brutal enough and savage enough that you're able to stop them from throwing you out, well, they'll just wait until you go to sleep. And then they'll push out the fire and scatter into the night. And they'll stick together so that they're protected against the lions. And you, well, you will wake up to the sound of lions circling your cold fire. They're hungry. Bon appetit, lions.
Why should, I mean, I'm born on this planet. There are no morals, there just is. There just are facts. Why wouldn't I do that if I wanted to do that? And better yet, if there's no free will, because on atheism there's no free will.
How is there no free will? How does that even work? Seriously. That is the most batshit fucking crazy nonsense you've vomited up yet. And I mean, you've already demonstrated that you are a terrible person who is only held in check because you think your God wants you to behave decently. If you started to actually study the teachings of your God, I'm presuming it's a Christian God, well, let's just say the last time somebody tried to live by biblical law in the 20th century, they ended up in prison because of the things that they did. Yeah. But, atheism rests on the foundation that free will exists. It rests on the foundation free will exists. I am capable of figuring out for myself whether or not a God exists. That's free will.
You can't even blame me for it. If I go on and do all these heinous acts, you can't even blame me on atheism. Because on atheism, you would say that I don't have free will.
See my previous statement. Within atheism, the assumption is that free will does exist. Whereas, in Christianity, you have a doctrine called predeterminism. Yeah, predeterminism, wherein your God has a script for everybody, and everybody has to follow that script. Everybody is playing the parts pre-written for them in something called the Book of Life that was written at the beginning of history, at the beginning of time, in which everybody's life is detailed to the finest point. And there is no free will. And that is core Christian doctrine. There is no true free will. Very strong ginger ale. Very good for my throat.
So, everything I did was determined already. My brain chemistry forced me to do what I did. So you can't.
And again, trying to resort to predeterminism and to transfer or project predeterminism onto atheism. Yeah. No, we're not buying it.
Not even blame me about it. And finally, the third thing is the argument that I would make, and that is basically it ties into the free will thing. So if atheism is true, then
in order for atheism to be true, atheism has to be a statement. Is atheism a statement? No, atheism is not a statement. Atheism is a conclusion arrived at based upon the assessment of the evidence or lack thereof for the existence of the gods. So no, atheism is not true or false. Atheism merely is.
we don't have free will. And determinism, so basically the position that we don't have free will, is self-contradictory.
And is a core Christian doctrine. Yes. Yeah. Predeterminism, a core Christian doctrine. Determinism is the scientific principle that causes and effects exist, none of which are applicable. Yeah. And no, atheism does not require predeterminism. And no, determinism is not applicable to people. It's not. It's applicable to chemical reactions. It's applicable to, if you add water to pure sodium, you will go boom.
A self-contradictory position cannot be true, and therefore atheism is false.
Except, again, there's nothing self-contradictory about I don't believe in the existence of the gods. And atheism, because it is not a statement, cannot be false either. There you go.
So, for example, if I'm debating an atheist on free will, well, they're going to actually have to assume free will to come even debate me.
And you will notice, again, there is nothing about atheism that precludes free will. On the other hand, evangelical Christianity, well, yeah, especially Calvinism. Calvinists are very big on the notion that there is no free will. Everything is predetermined. Everything you do was already decided by the God of Christianity thousands of years ago, and you have no choice. You have to follow the script. That is the Christian position.
They're going to have to assume the free will to analyze evidence, to analyze arguments, and to come to intellectual truth.
And your point is, free will is not a problem, except for you. Free will is your problem, because if your God has decided everything that you're going to do thousands of years before you do it, you don't have free will. Your Bible states that your God has already decided everything that you are going to do. Before you are born, your God has already decided every second of your life.
It doesn't exist on determinism. You don't arrive at conclusions because of your intellect and your thinking. You arrive at conclusions because the brain chemistry determined you to arrive at those conclusions.
Luca, you keep regurgitating this pre-refuted bullshit. You need to stop and think. You need to actually talk to an atheist. We're not following your script. I'm sorry. We're just not following your script. And the fact that you project core Christian doctrine onto atheism, that's, well, I'm going to be charitable and just call it ignorant, because the alternative is the most profound dishonesty conceivable to the human mind. Okay?
And your debates aren't going to intellectually affect people's minds. The only thing that there is are the brain chemicals that were already determined to act in the way that they act.
It doesn't matter how many times you repeat the bullshit, it's still bullshit. Okay? It's still bullshit.
It's a self-contradictory position. But this video...
And you will notice that it is not the position of any atheist at all. Okay? Not a single atheist holds that self-contradictory position. There you go.
Just sharing my thoughts, and if you're interested in philosophy, you're interested in self-improvement, then subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you tomorrow.
So I think I've broken down Luca's video non-point by non-point. And I've done that with a fever, sore throat, migraine, stuffed up sinuses, drinking, yes, ginger beer, good stuff. It's helping to make me feel a little bit better. Yeah. Anyway, Luca doesn't understand the difference between atheism and nihilism. He also doesn't understand the difference between atheism and the Christian version of Satanism. He doesn't seem to understand much of anything. Yeah. But he does seem to have a deep-rooted desire to do horrible things. And he is held in check only by his fear that his God might punish him for it. That's not morality. That's called being a monster on a leash. I'm not convinced that Luca could be allowed out in public if he didn't have his fear of divine punishment keeping him in check. Yeah. Fear of divine punishment isn't morality. It's fear of divine punishment. See, I don't need a God telling me to be a good person. It's just something that is intrinsic. It's who I am. And you need a God to tell you to be a good person. You're not a good person. You're a bad person, held in check by fear.